Well, what a day. This is hopefully the start of spring. Still February, but it's gorgeous and sunny and very mild. Very mild. So I thought it was quite a good time to talk about the bike. I've had the bike now for about 7 weeks. Done 575 miles on it, and most importantly, I've had a good day yesterday, very much like today, with lovely dry and mild weather, meaning that able to take the bike a little bit further in terms of starting to use it properly, starting to lean into the corners a bit more without worrying about the bike going from road conditions. So, you know, whereas the first 500 mile review, the first 1 week review was very much, I like the bike, it gets a lot of attention. This one, okay, only 600 miles or so, but this is more about what it really feels like to have a street cup and to ride it out and about. Yesterday was a very interesting day for various reasons. I may post a video of yesterday a bit later, but three of us out riding yesterday. Me on my Bonnie, and mates on a Tiger 800 XR, and the Tracer 900. But it was a really interesting day because there were a couple of things that happened. Firstly, Paul, who owns the Tracer, suggested I give it a quick blast. So when we stopped part way around, I just took it up and down the road for a mile or so. And secondly, Rich had some incidents on his Tiger, which I'll talk about after I've talked about the Tracer. So Paul's Tracer. Now I did all my test, mod 1, mod 2, on a Yamaha XJ6, so a 600cc Yamaha, which I absolutely loved. And I must admit, I have been looking at videos and wondering about getting a second bike, and in particular looking for something a bit more touring, I suppose, than a street cup. And the Tracer is definitely on my list as a possibility. So when he offered me the chance yesterday to give it a go, of course I said yes. And I found it actually a lot more challenging than I thought it would. Now, to be fair, I was only on the bike for probably 5 minutes, 6 minutes in total. The thing I found most challenging was just slow riding around the car park before I set off. because its throttle response was very different to the response on the Bonnie, and of course that's just a matter of getting used to it. Any bike, they all have their own individual quirks and characteristics. This is a terrible, terrible roundabout. You can never tell where anyone is going. Yeah, so every bike has its own individual characteristics and its own throttle response. And of course, when you're doing Mod 1 and Mod 2, you're slow riding, all about getting the balance right between clutch, throttle, and rear brake. In the real world, I don't know to what extent I actually really need to do that on this bike. It may sound a bit silly. I suppose I probably must do, and I'll probably do it without thinking about it. Well, I do it without thinking about it, but you just do it and you understand how the bike reacts, and away you go. Well, as soon as you get onto a different bike, just how the engine responds to a teeny tiny little twist on the throttle is inevitably it's different. And so I found it really disconcerting trying to slow ride for the very first time on another bike, and a taller bike as well. But anyway, it was okay, and went out and had a bit of fun on the bike for a few minutes, but I came back thinking, crikey, I can't wait to get back on my Bonneville. Now, I'll tell you that story because so as I was saying, Rich in front of me here on the Tiger, still trying to get to grips with the throttle response and low speed, or at least low speed turns. He was just saying that he's too used to just leaning into turns rather than steering through turns, and if you haven't, something goes wrong, and you're leaning too much and you're not in control of your throttle and clutch, then the inevitable happens. The inevitable being the bike starts to topple. So we're going to go and see if we can get a bit of practice in first at slow riding. Which would be a bit of fun. I haven't done that since Mod 1, although that wasn't too long ago for me. When was it? I can't remember, it was October or November time. I'm not saying it was fun at Mod 1 stage, of course. So, what was I telling you about all of that? I was telling you about all of that as part of my thinking about how I'm getting on with the Triumph, with the Street Cup after 500 miles. And I'm trying to make the point that actually for a new rider, which I am, I'm finding this a beautiful bike. Now, we haven't done long high-speed journeys, although obviously we've been up and down the odd 70-mile-an-hour stretch for a few miles at a time, but you're really going left. But the bike has got a really nice blend of low down torque, enough power, and just a really nice easy manner to it. So I'd almost describe it, this may sound a bit silly, but it's if so, you know, that's the silliness of a new rider and the way a new rider's thinking about it. I'd almost describe it as a twist and go motorbike. And what do I mean by that? I mean that it's pretty easy to get your head round fairly quickly round. I never knew you could come through here. It's pretty easy to get your head round appropriate gears for circumstances and speed. And once you've done that and you've selected your gear, the throttle response is so smooth and easy and linear. Yes, do of course, you know, change up as you get as you accelerate, but because it's got such a good torque spread, flat torque spread from low revs. It may sound silly, you don't really have to stress your throttle. You're not going for higher revs, and within your gear, the engine response feels very linear with your twisting of your throttle, and so because of that, it's very friendly. You don't feel at low speed a jerkiness when you twist the throttle. Maybe, I suppose, I'm saying you need to twist it a bit more than maybe on some other bikes to get instant acceleration. But it feels like it's a low risk bike for slow speed manoeuvres for that reason. Right, we're going to try some slow riding for a few minutes, so I'll stop talking. Nice little U-turn. And I'm not sure whether that would have been within the official designated distance. That one would. And that one would. And that one would. So on my last review, which was a just over a week in, I suppose, ownership review. I was reporting on a couple of issues, one of which was that the clock seemed to be losing an hour a day, which I'm pleased to say Triumph diagnosed as being due to me having fitted a cable for heated riding gear, somehow or other wrongly, and ever since they've sorted that out, the clock seems fine. And the other thing I was commenting on was a less than consistently flat idle speed, and in particular that was causing issues when I was effectively slow riding. Now, say they reset the fueling, hasn't made any difference at all, but I've come to the conclusion really that's just down to me to manage. And I think one of the things I was doing was actually riding slowly in second at times when really I should have been in first, and then when I'm riding slowly in first, using the clutch more, whereas I was being quite lazy and just allowing the bike to get by on idle revs, as opposed to using the clutch and giving it a bit more revs at the same time. So they were the only two issues I had, and I'm pleased to say that as I just today gone over 600 miles, I don't think there are issues today. I don't think there are any issues. The bike is a lovely bike. I'm very happy with it. You may recall me saying on this first video that I bought this hoping that it would be a new rider friendly bike, and I have to say it absolutely lives up to that bill. Handles beautifully. As I said earlier, twist and go throttle response. Very flat, very linear, doesn't surprise you, and yet got enough grunt to do what you need to do. I like the riding position. As you can see, it has got ace bars, slightly forward riding position, but only slightly. It doesn't feel at all like a sports bike. And as this is the only bike I've ridden for any significant distance since I passed my test, you know, it feels to me already that this is the natural riding position. And when I sit on a street twin, which is to all intents and purposes identical but has, in inverted commas, normal handlebars, feels to me a little bit weird that the handlebars are where they are, but I'm sure that's something you'd quickly adapt to. But it's a lovely bike. I really love the engine, love the sound of it, love the torque, and indeed the look of it. Of course, it's got a classic Triumph Bonneville design by definition, and it does look, crikey, it's very buffeting today, it does look like a classic motorbike.